Welcome to Cracklex. It's time for another exciting installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 3. The last trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has been released by Marvel. In addition to many other intriguing details, it confirms Sylvester Stallone's comeback and Nathan Fillion's role. It's time to prepare for the premiere, which we'll do in the following few minutes, as the movie won't be released for another 3 weeks.
He just hated things the way they are.
Let's start with the specifics in order to avoid confusion. The two leading actors in the second Guardians of the Galaxy were Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell. He played Stucker Ogard, the Desolation Clan's founder and Yondu's mentor there. When Ogard suspected Yondu of being a child trafficker, the boys fought. Starkar, however, gave his colleague a lavish funeral at which he reconnected with the Ravagers after discovering that Yondu is actually a good guy who gave his life for Peter Quill. Following James Gunn's dismissal, all of his plans for a film in the original Guardians of the Galaxy cast were abandoned. The trailer reveals that Stallone will play the same role, but with one subtle difference. In the second act, he was not actively involved in the action but rather stood in the background. The armor that Stucker Ogard wore in the comic books is also visible on him in the trailer. There, Stallone's character goes by the name Starhawk. His narrative eerily resembles the DC Manhawk we saw in Black Adam. Yes, and the Marvel Comics creators aren't particularly secretive about the fact that they simply license their Hawk from their DC neighbors concurrently. Starhawk, like DC, owes a debt to an ancient deity. He can fly at the speed of light, build structures akin to Green Lanterns, and fire energy clots because of his suit. Stucker is also one of the wisest people in the galaxy, and he knows everything there is to know about other planets. The suit has actual immortality, as is often the case, as well as superhuman strength. Although it's unclear which specifics from the comics James Gunn will incorporate and which he won't, the trailer makes it clear that Stallone will wear the suit. It stands to reason that since Stallone will return in the third installment, the other original guards from the second installment must also make an appearance. Generally speaking, this suggests a heartfelt final where the current Marvel team will be helped by the bad guys, but that's just a theory. Gunn hasn't given up on this reference and will see it through even though the movie about the Stallone version of the Guardians didn't turn out well. This is extremely uncommon in the current Marvel universe. For instance, we continue to be unsure of what transpired to the Pima particles that the Gidry came into possession of back in 2015. Gunn's suggestion to give the illustrious elder a separate film might actually be carried out by Kevin Smith. Our story will continue with Nathan Fillion's appearance in the trailer. That will be a different story. One of the biggest losers in Hollywood is the Castle star. Despite the support of the public, the movie Firefly with him was abandoned. Nevertheless, fans pleaded with the studio to change its ways. The first Guardians of the Galaxy starred James Gunn as the big guy who was lifted by Groot by the nostrils. He is a fan favorite among the audience and should not be overlooked. Secondly, Fillion played TDK in Suicide Squad, and Nathan played Wonder Man in a cut scene. So in the third installment, Gunn will finally reveal the actor's face. He can be seen briefly in the trailer standing at the Supreme Evolutionary's base. The actor's precise role is unknown, but given that he isn't on the list of the cast members who received the highest salaries for the project, we are probably talking about a brief cameo. The setting is a prison, where we have already seen Daniel Melchior with the guards, and based on appearances, Fillion will either play a jailer or a prisoner in that movie. It's also not too difficult to predict the character's outcome given Gunn's penchant for dark humor. However, the director will wrap up this mini-story by revealing Nathan's face in the larger cinematic universe. The same is true of Aisha. Elizabeth Debicki had a significant part in the second half and played a key role in the scene that followed the credits by creating Adam Vorlak. She will appear again in the follow-up, according to the trailers. Additionally, the scenes are put together to appear as though she is communicating with an advanced evolutionist and alerting him to the dangers posed by the Guardians of the Galaxy. In reality, the heroine is speaking to Adam Warlock. This is most likely a trick of the trailer magic. There's no denying, however, that Aisha and the Supreme Evolutionary will work together. Ultimately, they both wanted to defeat Star-Lord's team. Now let's talk about those who unquestionably won't appear in the film. Thor is listed first in the order. James Gunn revealed a puzzling circumstance along with the trailer's release. He claimed that Thor and the guards did not initially fly into space in the final scene. According to Gunn, this particular ending was chosen very last in the post-production process, and he was completely taken aback by it. Since Thor wasn't even close to being in the third movie at that point, James had already begun working on its script. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 originally debuted before Thor 4, which makes Gunn's predicament even more awkward. However, God of Thunder's director claims that under no circumstances would he have included the movie in the schedule. It simply had no place there and would have resulted in a cinematic blunder that made the events of the finale unrememberable. Fortunately, everything worked out as planned, and after Chris Hemsworth and the team split up on Thor 4, James Gunn made it abundantly clear that Thor would never make even a minor appearance in his project.
If we were to talk about it, I think it's important to...
It's making me sad.
Material objects.
And mad.
Okay, I'll stop talking.
While we're at it, let's talk about the timeline, one of the most difficult subjects for contemporary Marvel projects. In the modern Marvel universe, it's nearly impossible to tell which project comes first chronologically, but we'll try by focusing on the Guardians. Therefore, in 1988, the first movie's events start when Yondu abducts Star-Lord from Earth. Peter steals the Power Stone in 2014, gets locked up, and meets the other guards. Along the way, they manage to defeat Ronan and, more importantly, come across Ayesha and Ego. In actuality, the second movie's events start only a few weeks after the first one does. The struggle against Ego will take place, at most, in 2015. After working hard for a few years, the Infinity War events finally started in 2018 with a meeting with Thor. Except for Nebula and Rocket, all the other guards vanished during the film's 5-year run before reappearing in 2023 to take part in the final battle. Thor 4's events then start as they take off in a flying vehicle with Thor. Taika Waititi claims it's 2025, but Thor's own words in the film when he breaks up with Jane point to 2024. In any case, the Christmas episode of Guardians of the Galaxy will air on December 25 of this year, the 25th. In fact, unless, of course, we assume that Peter Quill had time to argue with the Supreme Evolutionist in the week after Christmas, the events of the third part are already occurring in 2026. It's crucial to remember that Star-Lord, Groot, Rocket, and the rest of the crew have all been heroes in the cinematic universe for at least 12 years. Even Mantis, who for us became a member of the Guardians in 2017, actually joined the group only a few weeks after the same Drax. And it's possible that something happened to him during that time that will set up the events of Part 3 without Gamora dying in Infinity War. Considering that they spent so much time searching for her and saw a different version of her a few years ago, there isn't much that could have happened since Sylvester Stallone attended Yondu's funeral 7 years prior to the events of Part 3. A very serious Guardians of the Galaxy develops with a lot of emotional background following the timeline trip. The losers from the first 2 parts are no longer present. Instead, this is a very old team that has been together for a very long time and has had the opportunity to travel widely.
I formed the Guardians, met a girl, fell in love.
Hence the project's high stakes, which James Gunn Gordon refers to as the last race for the current crew. All of a sudden, the films have transformed from being merely Marvel's blockbusters to almost defining the entire fourth phase. You might recall that Ant-Man 3 failed, failing even worse. The deal is that representatives from Marvel and Disney are attributing these failures to the general public's disinterest in superhero films. The Guardians of the Galaxy 3 will serve as this situation's defining movie. If the box office is strong, Bob Iger will whack Kevin Feige in the back with something substantial, tinker with the statistics, and claim that there isn't any superhero fatigue. The all-rounders who claim that there is no superhero fatigue are mistaken, however, and people do grow weary of superheroes if Watchmen performs poorly at the box office. The comic book movie genre has thus been defined by James Gunn's film. According to analysts, first weekend's worldwide box office receipts will likely reach $250 million or so, mirroring the results of the second half of 2017. If you like this video, then don't forget to hit that like button below and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I post videos in one day, so there's always something new here on my channel. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Until next time, take care.